human evolution. We'd go out and field pieces with no security. The MAGA movement changed those things. And so the last few big rallies I went to, I had 3 or 4 security guards. I think at January 6th, had 4 security guards, which is bonkers. I mean, I was an improv teacher before I did this. You don't usually need security guards for those types of things. I rarely see aggressive enough behavior, like it wants to threaten me and I need to fear for myself. Although when Trump lost the election, according to some, there was a different energy out there. I went to the Million MAGA March, their numbers, not mine, and there was such an energy of anger there that we at one point got chased down an alley. Security guards had to like step in, and so we had to approach things very differently, where literally we have to be careful where we set up interviews and what have you. And I don't want to say that that's always the case when we go out there, but the tone has shifted and people want to aggressively come up, if engage with you in some way.
The strangest or funniest or a comment that's really stuck out to you when you were doing like the man on the street interviews?
You know, one that always stands out to me is, in fact, I think my favorite comment was I was talking to a woman at the first Trump impeachment, and Trump was blocking witnesses from testifying. And he was blocking Michael Bolton from testifying, and not Michael Bolton, John Bolton. Michael Bolton could testify, you know? And what a beautiful testimony it would be. He was blocking John Bolton from testifying, among others. And I was talking to this woman, and she said, like, he's innocent. He's completely innocent. He didn't do anything wrong. If he was trying to do, if he did something wrong, he'd be trying to hide it. I was like, well, if he was stopping people from testifying, that would be an admission of guilt, right? And she said, of course, of course. And then I told her, I was like, he is blocking people from testifying. And she takes this very long beat. She thinks about it. And she says, I don't care. She was being completely honest in that moment. And she's right. Like, so much of this, we're like, oh, but maybe I could convince that person that they could care if there was that one thing. And I read something recently that said, like, you know, we can have debates about what you want. That's politics. I want this, I want that. Let's meet somewhere in the middle. That's politics. When your politics becomes who you are, we can't debate that. Real hard to change. And the Trump magic trick is that he made folks think this is who they are. They are MAGA. And so when we talk about, like, do you think he's guilty? Do you think he's not guilty? We can banter back and forth about the details. We can quibble in that way. But we're not really coming to an understanding of truth. That's who that person is, and they don't give a shit with the new piece of information. And so that moment for me was revelatory.
Convince someone or been able to show them how incongruous their views are compared to their beliefs?
No. No, I don't think that's something I've gotten super close to. I will say, though, in the last piece that we did, we went down to South Carolina and we talked to a woman who was there on January 6th. She got arrested for being inside, spent 60 days in jail, and she came out and she changed her opinion. And it was, I don't know, give her a round of applause. Great. And now you guys just clap for an insurrectionist. See how easy it is? Wow. And so it was good to talk to her. I think, like, she was somebody, and I did ask her, I was like, I don't run into many people who feel like they've been through it and then come out on the other side. And she said, I think jail shook her. And I think she started doing her own research, as she said, and a couple of these things didn't line up, and she felt like she was taken in. And so she felt it was her duty to come out to this Trump rally and talk to people about what she'd been through. They weren't necessarily great at listening to her, but there's a little glimmer of hope in there. Yeah, up in the back.
Do you think that anything will convince them otherwise?
Anything will convince them otherwise? Here's what I think. Changing somebody's mind is hard to do. And I think if you are approaching something like, I want to change their mind, you ain't going to get anywhere. I think the problem we have right now is a crisis of certainty. I talk to everybody on all sides who are very certain about their beliefs. And if you actually want somebody to see something that they haven't seen before and cross that divide into believing something else, they have to acknowledge that they have a sense of uncertainty. And if they're being approached by somebody else, you have to acknowledge that you have a sense of uncertainty as well. And so I think in order to change somebody's mind, you have to be a bit of a loser to begin. And it sounds strange, but you have to concede something to get anywhere. And so is it going to happen on a TV show? Doubtful. But with friends and family, there's an opportunity. One, because there is a connection there and hopefully some love, although I know it's been a hard few years. But I think if you can approach that, not from a place of judgment and from a place of uncertainty, concede something that you don't know. Because guess what? You are probably a lot like me, and you wish you were as certain about the things that you want to be, but you had to put up these guards because people are coming at you with knives all the time, and it feels like the other side is so dangerous, and in many cases, they are. But if you can't relate to them like another human being and say, I too am uncertain about some of these things, then you will never reach them as a human being in asking them to come over to a side of better understanding. So I think our only option is a step towards concession. Yeah.
Speaking of the danger you talked about, what was the scariest moment for you that
Sure. January 6th was a funny time. I mean, I will tell you a funny January 6th story. I was there on January 6th, working, to be clear. And I had 4 security guards with me, because I'm a comedian, and it's 2020, and that's what you do nowadays. And I talked to a man who was swinging a pitchfork, and he was ranting about revolution. I'm talking to this man with security. We all come around. And I talked to this man about swinging a pitchfork, and as I'm interviewing him, we're interrupted by another man who's screaming obscenities at us. And Obscenity Man gets shushed by Pitchfork Man, who said, "You do not speak for me," leaving me grateful to the more level-headed man swinging a pitchfork. And I swear, we made eye contact, and he rolled his eyes as if to say, could you believe this guy?
It stuck out with you at one of those rallies?
A moment of empathy that stuck out with me?
Something like time.
That's it. No, that is a good question. You know what? There is one of the last rally, well, not even last, this last election cycle, I went to a rally in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And it was terrible weather, and we were talking to people in the morning. And as I was talking to people, there was this guy who dresses in a brick suit. It's a bespoke suit that looks like Trump's wall. And he has a handlebar mustache, and he dresses like the wall, and he's one of the first people in line, and Trump often brings him up on stage. So he's a mini celebrity there, and he started hounding us at this rally. And he was live streaming, and he was saying, fuck these guys, don't talk to these guys are fake news. And to be fair, he's right. But he sort of trolled us for hours that day. He literally took out a phone and he stuck it into a wall. He's obsessed with walls. To try to capture something. Our crew was on a smoke break, and he wanted to try to capture something to get them in trouble. And it was a long, hellish day of filming, and it was a snowstorm. And so we rushed to the airport, and we got snowed into Green Bay, Wisconsin for the night, because we usually try to leave. And so we stay in Green Bay. And the next day, we all leave on different flights. And I go to the airport alone, and I show up at the airport, and my flight is delayed 3.5 hours. And who is there? But Brick Suit Man. And this is the Green Bay airport, so nobody else is there. And he looks at me and he says, do you want to talk? And obviously I'm like, no, I don't want to talk. This is a nightmare. And this is before I'm traveling with 4 security guards. And real talk, security protocol has changed since the story. But I sat down with him, and for the first half hour, we're all sort of feeling each other out. But then once we got past this fear, his fear that, like, I got a camera crew trying to catch him, and my fear that he's trying to have some sort of gotcha moment with me as well, we started talking about shit. I started to learn about him. He started to learn about me. I asked him about things I thought were BS about Donald Trump, he was open and vulnerable about the things and the weaknesses he saw in Donald Trump. Like, there wasn't a middle ground that we found, but there was a softening in those relations. And I'd like to tell you that, like, Brick Suit Guy was crazy, and he's not. He was a smart guy. He was an ideological guy. He was a conservative guy, more libertarian, loved to be a shit poster on the internet, but he wasn't an idiot. We talked for 3.5 hours. And as we walk, we literally get on the plane. We're talking all the way up to get on the plane. And I show my ticket to the ticket taker, and she goes, "Oh, you're in an exit row." And I'm like, "Oh," and I'm like, she says, "Do you accept the responsibilities of being in the exit row?" And I say, "Yes, I do." And then I turn to Brick Suit Guy and I say, "I hope this freaks you out." And then you know what happens? He laughs. And to me, that is the whole thing. Like, he wasn't offended. He didn't take it personally. He found humor in that moment. And I'm like, I find optimism in that. I don't know how to recreate 3.5 hours in a Green Bay airport with a nemesis of yours. But I know that, like, there's a softening when you remove the cameras, when you move the fear that this conversation isn't just transaction for a gotcha moment, but an actual conversation about the things that you care about and things you're unsure about. And I think that kind of vulnerability, that kind of uncertainty is paramount in any kind of situation that you hope to find any kind of humanity or common ground. And so I think that is there. I don't think we live in a media environment that cultivates that situation, but I think we are humans that necessitate it. And so that has not been erased by Donald Trump, but it has been pushed to the sides of the conversation. And so if we can find a way to allow that conversation to not exist only on the periphery, but somewhere in our own lives, I think we're going to get through that. Cool? Let's do some Zen. Yeah.